From Henry Cavill to Jason Momoa, the newly minted DC Studios has been purging its old heroes left and right. And while Cavill was given the boot by James Gunn, could Jason Momoa be quitting of his own will? Well, that's what reports have been saying.
I figured I was gonna play the bad guy. And he's like, I want you to play Aquaman. And I'm like,
but you had to keep it secret for a while. Did you keep it?
See, out of the superhero squad painstakingly assembled by Zack Snyder, Ray Fisher was the first to leave. Our first big-screen cyborg was treated quite terribly by Joss Whedon, and Fisher wanted nothing to do with the franchise. The guy may have torpedoed his own career to bring Joss and the crew to justice. Ben Affleck dropped out next.
Well, I've read and I've seen announcements to the effect of that you will not be Batman again.
I am, yeah. I have decided. No, thank you. Thank you very much.
After a long period of will he or won't he, he was also helming a Batman movie starring himself and walked away from the director's chair too. From there, we have Ezra Miller.
It's the awakening. The powers are still fairly new to him.
We thought their time in the sun was about to end, but you can apparently catch them in The Flash this June. Now, Henry Cavill was recently in the news a fair bit.
Superman! There you go! Cheer Ray! Okay, you can do it.
After Black Adam teased his grand return in the post-credits scene and hyped up fans, Cavill was shown the door by James Gunn. The new head of DC Studios has a different direction in mind for Superman, and Cavill doesn't fit in. Gal Gadot's fate, meanwhile, is undecided. Patty Jenkins, who wrote and directed her Wonder Woman movies, is definitely out of the picture. But as far as the actress is concerned, there were reports that Gunn was interested in retaining her. So, all in all, a lot of people's fate in the DCEU is uncertain. And the latest person to join that list is Jason Momoa. The actor's fate was confirmed pretty early on.
There's so many things that came together. Obviously, Zach.
Around the time Gunn took over the franchise in the first place, we found out that Aquaman is being retired. Momoa had been instead offered the role of Lobo, and the actor was apparently considering it. I think most of us assumed that it was similar to the Henry Cavill situation. James Gunn doesn't want Aquaman in his DC universe. Not yet, anyway.
Nada. This place is a wasteland.
You're the one who calls this wasteland a home.
This isn't my home. It's not like the whole surface looks like this.
But Jason is a really popular actor, and a committed one at that. He's not an asset you'd want to lose so easily. Since Aquaman was a pretty niche character anyway, it made perfect sense to offer him a different niche character. That's probably why there was no fanfare around this story. But it looks like there's more to the story than we thought, folks. Momoa's exit might have to do with the fact that his movie isn't all that great. The actor's next appearance will be in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, which, after a final reshuffle of the schedule, is coming out in December. Now, the first Aquaman movie was a bit of a sleeper hit. While it wasn't the greatest movie ever made, it was a lot more fun than anybody thought it'd be. And considering the other movies in the franchise, Aquaman somehow managed to be one of the best flicks of the DC extended universe. But although the movie has retained director James Wan and screenwriter David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick, the sequel is falling short of that standard. Jason is so irritated with how this sequel has turned out that he seems to have resigned from the character himself. The fact that he's considering Lobo suggests that he's not done with DC or superheroes in general. All the same, if the Aquaman sequel is this bad, the DCEU may be about to go on a low note. If you thought this was the end of the story, I'm afraid it gets even spicier. You see, Momoa isn't alone in thinking this. The movie is going through test screenings right now. And yeah, Aquaman is cannonballing. According to insider viewer Anon, the movie has been going through half a dozen test screenings. Audiences are calling it boring, worse than the first one, and potentially one of the worst DCEU movies. Good lord, is this movie falling in the company of Batman vs. Superman and Suicide Squad? Big screen leaks confirmed those impressions, adding that they hope James Wan fixes the movie before December. They also say that something that almost never happened in test screenings happened during the screenings of this movie. That's super intriguing to me. Did people walk out? Are they allowed to leave a test screening? Currently, the movie's test screening impressions are worse than what Black Adam had. That movie wound up being incredibly mediocre and underperformed at the box office. You'd think that Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom would capitalize on its momentum from the previous movie, but if the movie is really that bad, then we're in for another box office stinker. It looks like James Wan might not be to blame for this one. The leakers are saying that Wan had a tough time with this flick. Well, the tough times aren't over yet. I'm curious as to why this movie has turned out so bad. There are a few things that might work against the movie though. First and foremost, Aquaman was a perfectly good movie, but it wasn't really screaming for a sequel. It was great for introducing Aquaman and his corner of the world to the audience, but that was about it. I don't think anyone was left clamoring for more. James Wan seemed to have felt the same way. When Jason Momoa pitched his idea for a sequel during the shoot of the first movie, Wan didn't jump on it. His lack of excitement for the sequel is at least part of the reason why it's taken so long. Besides, the first movie had a big advantage. It was the first blockbuster movie in a while that took us to an underwater kingdom and society. Unfortunately, the test audiences for The Lost Kingdom have probably seen Wakanda Forever and Avatar: The Way of Water. They're going to be a lot harder to impress. It's also the opposite of serendipitous. The Lost Kingdom is meant to add a lot of world building. I'm assuming this is going to pale in comparison to Wakanda Forever and The Way of Water. But what might be most troubling is the Amber Heard situation. Yep, I'm sorry for bringing her up. It seems like it's only been days since the Depp Heard trial finally faded from the media. You do have to talk about her though, because she was a major part of the first movie. And prior to the trial, I'm sure that she would have been a major part of this movie too. I can't imagine that after the trial played out, Warner would still want to put Heard front and center. Despite Wan and Momoa's attempts to defend her place in the movie, the C-suite must have forced them to make edits. I'm willing to put money on the fact that at least some of Wan's difficulties with this film had to do with excising her. It had to be hard to do that and keep the movie coherent without doing something crazy like subbing her with the late Christopher Plummer. In other words, like so many movies in the DCEU, the Aquaman sequel has fallen victim to offset drama. I guess that makes it a fitting note to end the DCEU. But I'm going to end my video on a positive note. Jason Momoa does have a future in the DC franchise. The same insiders that reported this movie is gonna suck have also confirmed that Momoa has taken the role of Lobo. That has just upped my excitement levels. Jason is honestly dynamite casting for the baddest guy in the galaxy, and he's kind of the character James Gunn rocks at writing. That's all I've got for you about Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom.